Welcome to Brilliant Fools. My name is Adam Green, and in this mindset moment or mindset Monday, whatever you want to call it, I want to talk a little bit more about money, but specifically about our view towards it and a very specific instance. Pardon me, I'm still recovering from, I guess you'd say sick. I had a head cold this weekend, so voice is still lacking a little bit, but I had this question, and I have this question many, many times. But recently I had this question again where a potential client asked me, what's the largest size company or largest sized organization in our industry that you've dealt with? And they meant money-wise. They meant monetarily, what's the largest income that you've dealt with in our organization? Whenever I hear that, just FYI, that's a red flag to me. That's as much of a red flag as someone saying, hey, my stuff is real simple. If it's real simple, it's never simple. There's always something that goes wrong with it. But the same thing when someone says, what's the largest you've dealt with? And the reason I say that is this, especially from an accounting and tax standpoint, the companies that I've served, organizations, this is for-profit and nonprofit and all that kind of stuff. I have worked with companies that are tens of millions of dollars in revenue every year, and they are far simpler, far more easy than there was a church I worked with that was under $1 million in revenue every year, or giving income, whatever you want to call it. And by far, it was the most complicated set of accounts and money moving here and there and just kind of flowing all throughout that I had ever seen. So that was it's always an interesting question to me. What is the largest? And they mean by sales. I understand that in general, if you have a very high sales number, there's probably a tendency that there's going to be a little more complication going on with it, but it's not necessarily the case. It's kind of the same thing as people talking about, oh yeah, I have a $5 million company. It's like, okay, so you've had $5 million in sales. What was your net profit? And then oftentimes it ends up their net profit is almost nothing, or nothing. It could even be a net loss. Yeah, you've got $5 million in sales, but this guy over here with 500,000 in sales is coming home with more money at the end of the day than you are with your 5 million. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you? Why, from my standpoint, the things that I've seen, they don't make sense to base them on what's the largest amount of revenue that you've dealt with here and there. What that tells me, and I'm going to say even in the Christian world, even in churches that I've worked with, nonprofits and churches, what that tells me is that your mind is on money. And money still has a place in your heart as a master. And what did Christ say about that? You can't serve two masters. You're going to love the one and hate the other, or hate the one, love the other. I mean, it's one way or the other. You're going to pick one that you're going to serve more than the other. And when someone asks that question, inevitably, I hate that it's this way, but inevitably, their master is money more than God, even inside of a church. At least the person who's asking me that question, their master is money. So that's why it always kind of takes me back a little bit. And I hesitate to even answer that question. I do. And a lot of times, I'll even pick a lower number, like be as conservative as I can on that number, because I don't think I want that person as a client, if that makes sense. I don't want someone who serves money as their master to be a client of mine. I want someone who understands that there's something greater and something bigger. Someone who sees money not as a thing to be accumulated and hoarded and built up, and then we'll give away a little bit of it here and there. We'll give away the edges of the field kind of situation, but understands our position in this new covenant where Christ fulfilled all of the old law. We have so much more freedom to give everything because all is ours. Like the Father said to the to the son, right? Not the prodigal son. But in that story, the prodigal son, the father tells his other son, when his other son's upset about the prodigal son getting a robe and a fatted calf and everything, he says, son, all I have is yours. And I think we too often forget that, and we lose sight of that God says, look, all I have is yours, the earth. I have given to you to fill the earth and subdue it. So go out and use what I've given you. And that's the same thing with money. It's a tool, it's a seed that we plant in the lives of others to be able to watch them grow. Not so it can grow for our own selves, but so that it can grow. Not it, so that they can grow. So that we can grow in the Lord. It's just a part, it's another tool in that tool belt. It's another tool in that whole process. What size that is, my experience has been the ones who get past that, the ones who don't even think about the number and the largeness of it, they're the ones that end up with more of it. They're the ones that God says, all right, you can have more to handle now. I'll give you more. The more your mindset gets right about how money actually is and what it looks like, the more it seems, and you use it that way, the more it seems that God blesses those people. I want to be one of those people that sees it correctly. And if God blesses me with a lot of money, that's fine. But if not, okay, whatever. But my revenue, my income every year is not going to determine any kind of value on me. No, God determines that. That's the same thing with whatever companies I deal with. Your revenue, the size of your revenue, that really doesn't determine much for me. That doesn't determine your value at all. It might determine, a sale price for the company if you're looking for that. It can help determine that, but it's not going to determine any actual value, and it certainly does not determine your identity. Only Christ determines that. Only God tells you who you are. And he says you're his son, you're his daughter, if you are in Christ. So rest in that. Hopefully take that as a mindset. This week I'm going to talk more about some of the aspects of in real estate investing. It's something that I really enjoy, and getting on the kick a little bit more. I've done so much work with that, with investors, with not realtors, but people who do rental real estate, commercial rentals, other kinds of investment type properties. And there's a lot of stuff to get into in that. But again, the difference is only the mindset. And the ones that I've seen blessed the most in that regard are the ones that have a pretty decent mindset about it, not the ones who feel like they've done the most or they own the biggest hotel or something along those lines. So take that mindset with you this week. Money's not going to identify you. Money's not going to be your master. Money is not my master. God is, and I will serve him. And money's just going to be a tool to serve him with. So let's go out and serve him with it and enjoy that process. Not just serve it, but let me take that back as well, or roll that back a little bit, because we're ambassadors. We are servants of God, but we're his children. So we don't come to it as the prodigal son came to it. I mentioned the prodigal son. So we don't come to it in this, oh, woe is me, I'm your servant. The father didn't even let him finish that sentence before he said, get him a robe, put sandals on his feet, kill the fatted calf, put a ring on his finger. You're my son. You're my son. You are my child, and I love you. So let's take that with us this week and have the right mindset as it comes toward these numbers and this money. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully it's helpful a little bit. And until next time, thanks.